Nick here with tinywoodstove.com, and we're going to be talking about how to lengthen your burn times with your Dwarf smallwood stove. So there's several techniques with lengthening burn time with your stove. One is with a hot firebox, basically adding more fuel and dampening down your air settings to slow that burn down. I really like to use these compressed logs for overnight burn. I do have to purchase them, but they have way more BTU content than, say, just the pine or fir or spruce that I can get around here in North Idaho. So for example, this has 9,000 to 10,000 BTU per pound, and these are 8-pound logs versus I think 4,000 to 5,000 BTU for pine. So just a lot more energy content. One of these can burn for 8 hours. And obviously this isn't gonna fit in the stove like that, so you can chunk it up. I like to chunk it up into either in half for overnight or chunk it up into 2-hour sections if I'm just stoking it throughout the day. I'll have a fire like this. In there, there's a fair amount of fuel and it's nice and charred. And I'll chunk this in half. These chunks, you can just whack them with a hatchet several times and they'll kind of fracture. I think the first time I got one of these, I tried to cut it with a chop saw. Don't try to do that. So I got wood in here that I'm gonna get this shifted around, and then I'll add now. Right now I have the primary and the secondary. All the air is open. I'm gonna wait for these logs to char, and I'm gonna keep an eye on the temperature settings. I don't want this to get too hot. And then after they're charred, I'm gonna close down the primary, and then I'll start dampening down the secondary and the air wash. Then I'll head off to bed. So another option for getting longer burn times is what's called an upside down fire. But with this technique, you need to have a cold firebox. So if this was the firebox, I would stack maybe some Presta logs or other high BTU, maybe some hardwood down on the bottom. And then I would stack other fuel on top of that. I'm basically packing the firebox full. And then on top of that, I do some smaller pieces, and then a fire starter. And I would basically start the fire on top and let this start to catch, probably about half of it. Then I would dampen down the primary, and then the secondary maybe a little bit, and close down the air wash, and then just let that fire burn down. The benefit of this is that I don't have all these hot gases passing through this other stuff. So like the fire we have right now, all the heat is on the bottom, and it's coming through, and everything is kind of combusting and igniting at once. So it's a much hotter of a fire. This is lasts as long, but it's cooler as it's burning down. Obviously, if it's winter and you're using the stove all day, you can't really start with the cold firebox and do this method. This method does work good. So right now, we have those Presta logs, or those North Idaho Energy logs on there. They've ignited, and our flue temperature looks good. We'll close down the primary, and then I'll put that about right there, and then close this to about 50%, and then head off to bed. And that just is a slow, longer burn. Doing longer burns, you can get more junk in your flue, and your glass will likely be dirtier. Because to lengthen that burn time, you're probably gonna have a less efficient fire, because that's just gonna be kind of smoldering a little bit, but you get longer burns. You don't have to wake up every few hours to stoke the fire. So that's how to lengthen your burn time on your Dwarf smallwood stove. I hope that was helpful. For more tips and tricks, check out our website, tinywoodstove.com, and click on the Learn tab. Thanks for watching.